Every morning, most people wake up and immediately start selling. Not products, not equity, hours. 60 minutes traded for a fixed dollar amount, over and over until the day ends. That's not a career strategy. That's a ceiling with a salary attached to it. The gap between people who build real wealth and people who stay stuck isn't intelligence. It's not work ethic either. It's the mental model running underneath every decision they make, the invisible code that determines what they chase, what they price, what they say yes to. Naval Ravikant identified the mechanism clearly. You don't get wealthy by renting your time. You get wealthy by owning assets that work while you're not. Your time from your income, that's the disconnection that changes everything. The programming that got you here is a labor script. It says presence equals payment. This video replaces that script with 5 leverage affirmations built directly on Naval's framework. Each section ends with an I am statement. Say it out loud when we get there. Let it land. Let it do the work the old track used to do. The labor mindset trap. There's one wealth equation almost every school, every parent, and every manager ever taught you. Work more hours, earn more money. Linear input, linear output. And for a while, it works. You get the raise, you get the promotion, you get the slightly bigger number on the paycheck. But the equation has a structural flaw you can't negotiate your way out of. Hours are finite. There are 24 in a day for you and 24 for everyone else. The moment your time becomes your primary asset, you've accepted a hard ceiling. You can optimize inside the ceiling, better hourly rate, more efficient schedule, but you can't break through it. You're playing a capped game. Naval's framing cuts straight to it. Renting your time means someone else captures the upside. Landlords don't get wealthy because they work more hours than tenants. They get wealthy because they own the asset that produces value whether they're present or not. The renter's labor maintains the value. The owner's structure compounds it. The labor identity doesn't feel like a trap when you're inside it. It feels responsible. It feels productive. You're busy, you're delivering, you're showing up. Busy is comfortable because it looks like progress. But busy without ownership is just running fast in a closed loop. Watch where this identity shows up in small decisions. You price your service by the hour because that's how you were taught to value your time. You take every meeting because being available signals commitment. You hesitate to delegate because nobody else will do it exactly right, which guarantees you stay the bottleneck. These aren't random habits. They're the labor script executing automatically, shaping choices before you've consciously decided anything. The shift isn't about working less. It's about reorienting the question. Instead of asking how you can do more, you start asking what you can build that does it for you. That single reframe is the entry point into everything Naval's framework is built on. The 5 pillars coming up aren't theory. They're replacement code, new instructions for how an owner mind processes opportunity, time, and risk. The first one is the most concrete. Code leverage affirmation. Naval calls software the purest form of leverage available right now. A line of code written once can serve 10 people or 10 million people at almost zero additional cost. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't ask for a raise, and it doesn't need you in the room for it to keep running. That's not a metaphor for productivity. That's a structural property of how software works. But code leverage isn't just for engineers. The broader principle is this: any system, automation, or tool that breaks the connection between your effort and your output counts. A no-code workflow that handles your client onboarding. An AI agent that qualifies inbound leads before you ever see them. A reporting script that pulls and formats the data your team used to spend 3 hours assembling manually. The The specific tool doesn't matter. The question that matters is whether you built something that runs without you, or whether you're still doing the task by hand every time it comes up. The labor mind defaults to doing. When a recurring task appears, the labor mind schedules time to handle it. The owner mind treats the same task as a design problem. Not, when do I do this? But, how do I build something that handles this permanently? Here's the cost of skipping this. Every manual task you repeat is debt. You paid the time cost today, and you've agreed to pay it again every cycle it comes back. That debt doesn't compound into anything. It just drains. Code leverage is the mechanism that converts repeating costs into one-time investments. Pick a friction point in your work this week. Something you do manually on a schedule. Something you rebuild from scratch every time a client asks the same question. Something that takes 30 minutes and produces the same output every single cycle. Spend 60 minutes this week building a system to handle it instead of doing it manually one more time. Not polished, not perfect. Functional. The asset starts working the moment you stop being the asset. Say this one aloud, and let it replace the version of you that defaults to doing instead of building. I am the architect of systems that earn while I rest. Code builds the systems. But there's a second form of leverage that requires zero technical skill and no permission from anyone. Media leverage affirmation. Most people think visibility requires permission. You need a publisher to write a book, a network to host a show, a record label to release music. That's the old architecture. Naval dismantled it in a single sentence. Code and media are permissionless leverage. Anyone can broadcast. No credential required. No gatekeeper to pass. Media, in Naval's framework, means content you create once that gets consumed indefinitely. A podcast episode recorded on a Tuesday keeps playing on a Saturday 2 years from now. An article you published last spring still pulls traffic this winter. A YouTube video explaining how you solved a specific problem works while you're at dinner, while you're asleep, while you're building the next thing. You did the work once. It runs forever. The labor mind trades time for attention. You show up to the meeting, you make the call, you answer the email, and when you stop showing up, the attention stops too. The owner mind builds a distribution asset. Something that attracts attention automatically because the work is already out there, already indexed, already trusted by the algorithm and the reader alike. Think about what that actually compounds into. A newsletter you start this month, one useful issue per week, grows subscribers the way interest grows principal. Slowly at first, then not slowly at all. A YouTube channel with 30 focused videos on a specific problem your audience actually has becomes a trust engine that operates without you. A thread explaining a process you've done 100 times still gets shared 2 years later and still brings people to your door. You wrote it once. There's a multiplier most people miss. Media leverage doesn't just build an audience. It feeds directly into capital leverage. Investors find founders through what they've published. Partners find operators through their newsletters. Buyers find sellers because the seller wrote the definitive piece on the problem the buyer is trying to solve. Your published work is a compounding asset that attracts money, opportunity, and trust simultaneously. Say it aloud. Let it replace the track that says you need someone's approval to be heard. I am a broadcaster of value whose signal works around the clock. Your action this week: publish one piece of useful content under your real name. Not polished, not perfect. Something that solves a problem you've already solved. One post, one video, one article. Ship it. It starts working the moment it's live. Code builds the systems. Media builds the distribution. Now we get to the pillar that multiplies both. Capital Leverage Affirmation Capital is the most asymmetric tool on Naval's list. One decision, correctly made, can compound for decades with zero additional effort from you. That's not hyperbole. That's the math of ownership. Money deployed into the right vehicle keeps working regardless of whether you're awake, whether you're paying attention, whether you're even alive. Naval's first rule with capital is blunt: avoid ruin. Before you chase upside, eliminate the scenarios that wipe you out entirely. No single bet so concentrated it ends the game if it's wrong. No leverage so aggressive it leaves no room for error. The goal is to stay at the table long enough for compounding to do what compounding does. The labor mind holds cash and trades time for wages. It confuses saving with building. There's a real difference between money sitting still and money deployed. A savings account isn't capital leverage. An index fund that quietly compounds over 20 years is. A revenue share deal in a small business where your specific knowledge gives you an edge is. An equity stake in something you understand better than the market does is. These are vehicles where money does the heavy lifting. Here's how the progression actually works. At the base layer, automated index fund contributions. Non-negotiable, consistent, boring in the best possible way. At the skill layer, small business ownership or revenue share arrangements where you have genuine insight others don't. At the high skill layer, angel investing, where your specific knowledge lets you see value in places the crowd is still overlooking. Each layer requires more judgment, but delivers more asymmetry. The connection between specific knowledge and capital is worth holding. Specific knowledge increases the value of your judgment. Capital then multiplies that judgment. A generalist investor gets market returns. Someone who deeply understands a niche regulatory environment, or a specific customer psychology, or a particular technology trajectory, gets something different. They see what others miss, and they get paid accordingly. Say this one aloud, and mean it. I am a steward of capital that compounds beyond my lifespan. Your action this week: automate one recurring investment. Even a small amount. Set it up so it moves without your intervention, like rent paid to your future self. Non-negotiable. That's the posture. Both code and capital rest on something underneath. Something you can't borrow or buy. What you uniquely know that no one else can copy. Specific knowledge affirmation. Naval asks one question that cuts through every career conversation faster than any framework. What do you do that feels like play to you but looks like work to everyone else? That's not a personality quiz. That's a diagnostic for where your leverage lives. Specific knowledge isn't a credential. It's not the MBA, not the certification course, not the professional designation that took 18 months and a lot of money to earn. Those exist in a catalog anyone with tuition can access. The labor mind chases the catalog because it's legible, it earns approval, it signals effort to managers and committees, it feels like progress because there's a clear finish line. But a credential is, by definition, replicable. The moment a qualification becomes the standard, it stops being an edge. Everyone has it now. You're back to competing on availability and hourly rate. Specific knowledge is what gets built from years of obsessive curiosity in a direction most people didn't find interesting enough to follow. A financial analyst who spent 5 years tracking a niche regulatory structure that determines margins in one specific industry. Nobody else is doing that. A marketer who's read enough about how attention works, how memory encodes, how emotion drives decision-making, that they can diagnose a retention problem in under 10 minutes. That's not teachable in a weekend workshop. A founder who's talked to the same type of customer for so long that they sense unspoken pain before it gets articulated. No course produces that intuition. Those people become genuinely hard to replace, and hard to replace means hard to commoditize. Here's why this pillar sits at the base of everything. Leverage multiplies whatever it touches. Apply code leverage to mediocre judgment and you automate mediocrity at scale. Apply capital to shallow insight and you lose money faster than you would have by hand. Specific knowledge is the raw input. Without it, the other pillars just accelerate your weaknesses. Building it isn't complicated, but it requires structure. A daily deep work block, 60 to 90 minutes, early when your cognition is sharpest, on your hardest skill. Phone in another room. No ambient noise from the feed. Deliberate practice means you push slightly past the edge of your current ability each session, not rehearse what you already know. That block, sustained for months, compounds into something that genuinely can't be copied by someone who didn't put in the same hours. Machines can replicate information. They can't replicate the judgment that forms in a person who has spent years at the edge of a specific problem. Say this like you've earned it, because it's only true when you do. I am a deep well of insight that deepens every day and cannot be replicated by machines. Block 90 minutes tomorrow. Not this weekend. Tomorrow. Your hardest skill, your deepest edge, your least distracted focus. Output over appearance. What you actually built, not how busy you look doing it. Accountability affirmation. The labor mind has a strategy for risk that feels completely rational. Avoid it. Stay inside a structure someone else owns. Do solid work, collect the wage, let the person at the top carry the exposure. It feels safe because the downside is invisible. You never lose what you never put at stake. But that trade costs more than most people track. When you remove your name from the outcome, you also remove your name from the upside. Equity accumulates for the person who signed the bet. Reputation compounds for the person who published under their real name. Ownership flows toward whoever accepted the downside risk. Anonymity looks like protection. It's actually a ceiling, and unlike the labor ceiling, this one you put there yourself. Naval's point is precise. Society rewards accountability with more accountability, more leverage, more equity. Not as inspiration, as mechanism. The person who negotiates for profit share instead of just salary is asking to be paid like an owner. The person who publishes analysis under their real name puts their judgment in front of the market and says it will be judged. The person who accepts a role where decisions visibly move outcomes, and accepts that their name is on those outcomes when they move badly, is doing something the labor mind refuses to do. It shows up in smaller places too. Taking a project with visible metrics. Making a public prediction. Attaching your name to a performance target with real stakes. These aren't reckless. They're training grounds for judgment, because leverage amplifies bad decisions just as efficiently as good ones. The only way to calibrate is to operate in environments where something real is on the line. Accountability without leverage is just exposure. But accountability combined with code, media, capital, and specific knowledge is the mechanism that lets you actually claim the compounding returns all four pillars produce. You built the system. You built the audience. You deployed the capital. You deepened the knowledge. Now you sign the work and stand behind it. Say this one and notice what shifts. I am the owner of my outcomes. I sign my work. I bear the risk. I claim the reward. This week, put your name on something that matters. A project, a public statement, a target with real stakes attached. One thing where the result carries your signature. The daily reprogramming protocol. The labor script doesn't live where you can argue with it. It lives in the automatic layer, the assumptions that fire before you've consciously decided anything. That's why reading about leverage doesn't change behavior. Intellectual agreement isn't installation. You need repetition at the level where identity actually forms. The protocol has 3 entry points. Morning is the first. Within 10 minutes of waking, before the feed, before the inbox, before anyone else's agenda has entered your head, speak all 5 affirmations out loud. Not in your head. Out loud. Then attach one concrete action to each pillar for that day. Not a vague intention, a specific output. What system are you building this morning? What content goes live this week? What investment moves automatically today? Where are you pushing your edge for 90 minutes? What are you putting your name on? 5 pillars, 5 actions, spoken while your brain is still fresh and open. Before any work block begins, run one question. Is this building an asset, or is this renting my time? If the answer is renting, you have 3 responses: systematize it, record it so someone else can execute it, or remove it entirely. That question, asked every day, is a filter that slowly restructures your calendar. Most people find they're renting their time on 60 to 70% of what fills their hours. You don't have to fix that immediately. You have to see it clearly first. Evening is the integration layer. 5 minutes, 3 questions. What did I build today that still works tomorrow? What friction did I run into that I haven't systematized yet? What did I ship publicly? Short answers. Honest ones. This closes the loop the morning opened and feeds the next day's actions with real data instead of habit. Then there's the Sunday test. Naval frames it simply. What did I do this week that will still be working for me at scale 5 years from now? Not what was urgent. Not what filled the calendar. What actually compounded. If the answer is thin, next week's allocation shifts toward the pillars. The protocol isn't motivation, motivation is weather. This is infrastructure. Repetition that gradually overwrites the default identity with the one you're constructing deliberately. Conclusion: 5 pillars. 5 affirmations. Code builds systems that earn without your presence. Media builds distribution that compounds without your effort. Capital deploys judgment that works beyond your lifetime. Specific knowledge creates the raw material leverage multiplies. Accountability signs the work and claims the return. The protocol isn't a theory. It's the daily friction that installs these at identity level instead of leaving them as ideas you agreed with once and then forgot. Tomorrow morning, speak the first affirmation out loud, then spend 90 minutes building something that outlasts your presence. That's where the labor mind starts losing ground.